Good morning and welcome to Race Industry Now, the weekly webinar series from ePartrade, presented to you by ARP, Performance Plus Global Logistics, Ferrea, Peak, Quarer, and Fifth Third Bank Motorsports. I am Francisque Savignan, the founder and CEO of ePartrade, the racing industry, every minute, every day. This is episode 463, and we're going to be talking with Quarer. With me this morning are Judy Kin, the co-founder of ePartrade, Andrea Brake, our vice president of sales, and our wonderful host, Mr. Brad Gillie. Andrea?
Thank you, Francisque. We're just really excited to have Ferrea on today. Personally, I have worked with them for several years, so I have a long history with this company. We're really proud to have this legendary company not only be a part of the platform, but to do the webinar today and then also jump on board as a sponsor. So we're just really looking forward to hearing what they have to say today. So thank you, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. I double down on what Andrea said. We are so proud to have Ferrea be a sponsor of not only Race Industry Now, but Race Industry Week. So they're iconic, and I'm so proud to have them on board with us. Brad?
Well, I have to say I am thrilled as well and look forward to it. So, nice to see you here, Andrea. Really cool. And thank you, Francis. Thank you, Judy. We'll see everyone here in just a little while. So very excited about today's webinar. And want to start things off by saying, as always, if you have a question for either of our panelists or for anything we're talking about here today, please feel free. If you're watching live, type it in the chat. This is definitely designed to be interactive. This is like we're at a trade show and we're talking about all of this. So don't be shy. Feel free to jump in anytime and ask any question that you want. Our webinar title today: Unlocking Performance, Mastering Ferrea Shaft Rocker and Stud Mount Rocker Technology for Peak Efficiency by Ferrea, and our panelists, Peter Harris, Sales and Tech Support Crank Department Manager, and Lewis, is it Floquet or Floquet? I don't want to be wrong.
Floquet.
Okay, Floquet. Okay, Sales and Tech Support Marketing. So, gentlemen, welcome. We appreciate having both of y'all here.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. I guess Peter or Lewis, whoever the best one is to answer this, let's just start by talking a little bit about Ferrea. You guys have been around for a long, long time, but tell us about the company and, maybe just a quick little tease of some of what we're going to be talking about here today.
Well, Ferrea was started in 1955, 70 years ago, by my uncle, Lewis's grandfather, Bruce Ferrea, and it's been a family-owned business ever since. We make just about everything in-house. We do not farm out hardly anything. We make everything we sell, except for maybe a few bolts and nuts, but everything else we make.
That's really cool. And I didn't realize it was such a family business, which I think is even more wonderful. So that's great to see that you guys have been doing this for as long as you have. And obviously, that means that there is a lot of experience inside of what happens at Ferrea as well. Well, let's talk about stud mount and shaft rockers. How long has Ferrea been manufacturing those?
Well, I'm thinking the stud mount rockers have been about 50 years or so. I don't know the exact start date. I mean, it was well before I've been here, and I started in 1980, so kind of dates me. Shaft mount rockers, I would say it's been about 35 or 40 years.
Wow. And again, the longevity goes to experience, quality, and everything else. So let's compare the two. How does stud mount rocker arms compare to shaft rockers? What can you tell us?
Lewis, you want to go on that one?
Sure. Stud mount, you're basically going to have like a 7/16 or 3/8 single hold down. It works pretty much for most applications, but the shaft mount, you're going to have a bar that goes across. Makes it much more rigid. You're going to have several points basically to hold down the rocker rather than just like the single point. Shaft mount is probably better for your way high spring pressure guys, solid roller guys. Just a lot more rigid, much more, basically it's held down in more areas is why like the shaft mount system is superior to the stud mount.
Okay, yeah, and I know you mentioned a couple of things that are the differences and everything. Does the benefit cross everything? When it talks about the shaft mount rockers, you mentioned like higher springs and different things like that. Is it better in all applications, do you feel, or what is the benefit of shaft mount?
I think it's better in all applications if you can do it. It does cost more, but I mean, it is a superior product, the shaft mount versus stud mount.
Mm-hmm. Well, what type of races could use the stud mount rockers and the shaft rockers?
I mean, we do what stud mount, shaft mount for boats, monster trucks. I mean, tractor pull. I mean, anything really, drag racing. You know, circle track guys. I mean, depending on their rules and everything, they'll run the stud mount, or you know, if they can, they'll run the shaft mount.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that the most popular stud mount rocker we sell gets used in offshore boats and stuff like that. It's really big in the big block Chevy market. So a lot of guys will use them in boats and stuff like that.
Why is that? Why does that sort of translate more over to that discipline?
I think it's just they're not ready to step over into a stud mount, or I mean a shaft mount system. And it's ease of maintenance and stuff. Individual rocker arms can be worked on a boat, pretty simple. And it's more like a stock type of operation.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Why did Crowder stop manufacturing aluminum rockers? What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's kind of a two reasons. One was production. We were having a hard time making both because we're trying to run both of them through the same production line. And it just was kind of becoming burdensome. So we just decided to concentrate on steel billet rockers and stainless steel rockers. And we just did away with the aluminum because aluminum is basically a perishable rocker. So we decided to get out of that business.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that longevity is a good thing. Performance obviously is the best, but you know, performance only takes you so far as long as things are working, and you definitely don't want to keep pushing money into it with replacements. Do shaft rockers add horsepower, and how and why?
I would say they do, just keeping valve train in line, not you know, reducing harmonics and stuff like that. I do have some engine builders say that our shaft mount rockers do make more horsepower than other manufacturers' stud mount or shaft mount rockers. So it is a horsepower deal.
Is that like a trade secret? Can you give us like how is that? Why is that you feel it makes more horsepower?
Well, I mean, I've had guys tell me off the dyno, you take, say, another brand off, put ours on, they make about 8 more horsepower.
No kidding. That's pretty like that's difference making horsepower right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you maximize an engine and you're squeezing every horsepower out of it, if you could get 8 horsepower by bolting something onto it, you're going to go that direction.
That's really cool. Does Crowder offer rocker tip options?
Oh yeah.
What can you tell us?
Oh, we have a needle bearing tip option. That's going to be your like axle with the needles, and then your outer race. And then we also have a bushing style tip, which will be like our same as like our lifter material, the Duramax material that would be on the tip. And then now we also have a DLC pin option tip that's basically a DLC pin with just an outer race, and that seems to be working really well right now.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. And what are some of the differences? Is it personal preference? Is it performance applications? What can you tell us about the differences between those?
I think a lot. Well, go ahead.
I think it's a longevity thing and reassurance that you're not going to have trouble. If you can eliminate a trouble point in an engine, you're going to spend a little bit more money and do that.
Yeah.
And the DLC coated pin seems to be the winner on all these nowadays. I have guys switching over their whole engine programs to the DLC coated pin from, say, the needle bearing tip. What they're looking for is they run small diameter valves. And what happens with a standard tip, a lot of times it will actually pull the top of the valve over and wear the valve guide. So they can get away with a smaller valve, and it keeps the friction to a minimum at the tip. So they see longevity in valve guides and less friction, which equates to more horsepower again.
Yeah, that's great. It's great when you can solve a problem and then actually add some horsepower to it.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't always get those kinds of exchanges in racing. Usually it's a compromise. You're going to gain something here, but you're going to give up something there. And
no, it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's a pretty rare thing, especially if you can win with performance and longevity.
Yes.
Because We know those don't always go hand in hand.
And the DLC pin actually costs less money than the other two options.
Really?
Yeah, because it's simple. It's a very simple thing.
I think we might have found that magical unicorn in racing. Performance, longevity, and savings. That's pretty incredible. I know you guys have rockers available for a wide variety of cylinder heads. Can you talk about some of those?
Right, Lewis.
I mean, small block, big block Chevy, LS, the Fords. We even have a Mopar version for the Edelbrock. Basically, we just try to stay on top of all the popular cylinder heads and give people an option for it.
I know we're talking about some of the trends and different things like that, like you mentioned the DLC and different things. Do you guys see any current trends in what you're doing with your business at Crower right now? Or are people moving over to this technology or away from that technology? What can you elaborate with us on that?
I don't know what to tell you there. I think it's guys that know what works for them. And a lot of these guys are family owned and run businesses. So they've come up with their own series of things that they do. So I wouldn't say for us, there's any really different technology changing things right now. I mean, the DLC coating is a big technology thing that's new to us. So other than that, yeah, I really don't know.
Yeah, to me, it's always fascinating to see sort of where, things are going and what people are doing with things. Let's talk a little bit more about Crower, if we could, Peter and Lewis. Just, a lot of great resources, number one, with the website, but obviously a lot of great resources with what you guys have as a business as well, and a family-run business that's been around for, more than half of a century, which is a great thing also. I know customers probably have some typical common questions or maybe even some uncommon questions. What are people asking you guys about?
I would say like a lot of the stuff we get is solid rollers are becoming more and more popular for the street and everything. As far as like the valve train stuff goes, so a lot of it are can a solid roller live on the street? Do I have to adjust it all the time? Things like that. And I would say with like our stainless steel or billet steel rockers, what's nice about that in the solid roller world is you can pretty much set the lash and forget it. It doesn't grow and shrink like aluminum rockers. It doesn't heat cycle fatigue, anything like that. So I would say we get a lot of questions, can our shaft rockers be streetable? Can the solid roller be streetable? And that goes a lot with like the drag and drive people that we're getting a lot, we work a lot with those guys as well.
Well, Lewis used our rockers and complete valve train in his LS3 that he runs on the what'd you go a mile? What was that you did?
The drag and drive, like Rocky Mountain
yeah.
Race Week, drag week style. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about there is like you are drag racing the car that you drove out there, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. And you drive it track to track and everything and tow your own trailer with the race car and everything.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I know again on the website there are a lot of great resources as well. And look, I know a lot of your customers are extremely knowledgeable with what they're doing. But if I'm currently not a customer of Crower, what would you tell me? What's the difference and why I would need to start looking at what you have and how you can help me?
I would say first off, we make it all there in San Diego. A lot of companies don't do that. They'll, get it from overseas and then they'll finish machining it or anything like that. We try to do everything that we can in US material, US made, all in-house, family owned, which is that stuff's kind of going away as far as that goes. All the big businesses are buying up everybody. So I would say, and I mean I would say like the experience at Crower, I'd say most of the employees and everything have been there for 30 plus years for the majority of them. And so I think you're getting the experience and family owned and US material, US made.
Well, we're going to make it right for you. When you buy something from us, we know it's a big expense for you. It's once you buy from us, you're kind of like family. We're going to make sure, like down the road, if you have troubles with installation or anything like that, something doesn't work, we're going to get it right for you. We're going to make it work. So you can always trust us for that.
Yeah, which is awesome. Like you said, you don't get a lot of that nowadays. I do want to remind anyone, if you're watching live right now, if you have any questions, feel free to type it into the chat. We would love to talk about what you want to know about and some of the questions that you have as well. If you have anything for either Peter and or for Lewis here, as we're talking with Crower and mastering Crower shaft rocker and stud mount rocker technology for peak efficiency, which is the title of our webinar here, which is it's really fun to talk about some of these things here. And Lewis, you mentioned you're out there racing these things. And I know when you get with a lot of big companies, you know, there are some benefits there. When you get with family companies, to me, there are really big benefits there as well. And it's one thing to be manufacturing and seeing things go out the door. It's another thing to see how things are being used and what they look like after use and all of that. How tight are you guys also with your racing community, with the people who are using your products, and, you know, not just being able to deal with the customer on the front end, but also be able to deal with the customer on the back end of things and see what something might look like at its end of life or somewhere, you know, after it's been in a car or an engine for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, with the drag and drive community, it's a pretty tight niche. I would say like a lot of them, you know, aren't customers anymore. A lot of them are friends, and so they definitely don't have an issue telling you if they don't like something or they like something and it's working. You get a lot of feedback that way. I mean, especially when you're traveling in groups, if anything's going wrong, you're seeing it firsthand. You're seeing the frustration, so you could say like I feel like you get like a lot more valuable input because you're right there. You're on the side of the road working with them. You're seeing what's going wrong. Um, you don't want your friends' cars to break, certainly. So that's like another reason. You know, you always try to give out the best product you can. But I think we get a lot of valuable feedback that way.
Yeah, it's always a great thing to actually be able to work within the community as opposed to, again, just seeing things going out the door. You know, as we've talked about the evolution, we talked about how long Crower has been here. You know, what can you tell us about maybe some of the technology that's grown over the years, or some of the things that, you know, look, for a lot of people, a camshaft looks just like a camshaft, and it doesn't matter if you pull it out of a car from 40 or 50 years ago, or if you see something come straight out of your door. But what can you tell us about how things have evolved from what you guys are doing?
I would say probably everyone wants more lift. The cylinder heads are getting so much better. I mean, 1,000 horsepower used to be a big deal back in, you know, 10, 15 years ago. 1,000 horsepower was a big deal. Now everybody has 1,000 horsepower. So I would say just like the advancement of the engines and the power, the turbochargers, the fuel injection systems, trying to keep up with that. And I mean, you know, 1,000 horsepower, everybody has that now, so that's not a big deal. So basically just trying to keep up with the horsepower gains.
Yeah, as those gain, how does that change what you do, especially when you start talking about people adding turbos and superchargers, and, you know, we want to add all of these different things to the engines and all of that. But then what does that do to some of the internals that you guys are making?
Well, it
I mean,
demands more of
yeah,
everything we manufacture. That's one reason why we started making a billet rocker arm to handle the increased spring pressures. And it's like a turbocharged engine or a blown engine, it's very hard to open the exhaust valve. So you'll need that stronger rocker arm because of those pressures.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, and then when you talk about adding strength, and again, people don't want that compromise that sometimes comes with, you know, you want the durability, but sometimes there is that horsepower compromise. How do you look at maybe solving some of those problems, like we were talking about earlier with some of the things that, you know, heck, you have things that solve all the problems: durability, performance, and price. But how do you balance that?
Well, it's a constant upgrade in what we're making. The billet rockers have gone through a metamorphosis from day one to what they are now. You know, we've increased all the radius sizes and increased the strength areas around the bottom of the rocker for the bearing strength. It's just a constant upgrade of what we're doing to make a better product.
Hmm. I'm sorry, Lewis, did you want to add something to that?
No, that I was just agreeing with them.
Yeah. Some of the products that Crower you guys make, like you said, you make everything there, but it's amazing to realize the manufacturers that you support, as far as, you know, heck, having things from Volkswagen to Toyota to Nissan, Land Rover, Holden, Ford, Chevy, Buick, and all of that. Give us a little more of an overview of some of the things that you're making out there, some of the other products that you have.
Well, you pretty much hit it on the head. What most of the popular stuff we do make product for, We do try and streamline it a little bit because we find ourselves trying to make everything, and we're running everything basically through the same production lines. So we do need to curtail some of the stuff on availability so we can meet the demands of the high output products. Like a Chevrolet lifter. I mean, we make hundreds of thousands of a 842 diameter small block Chevy lifter. Same thing with the rocker arms. We try and make most of the popular stuff in bigger volume so we can supply our needs, our customer needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I could definitely see, you know, batching out, doing all of that. What if I needed something a little more boutique? Is there anything that Crowder offers for that?
You talking about custom stuff?
Yeah, you know, if I have some ideas of, hey, I want to try this, can you do this for me? Is that an option?
Now in today's day and age where we can't hire people, it's very hard to hire people that want to do this any longer. So that gets tougher all the time. It really does get tougher all the time.
Yeah, which is very understandable. And like you guys said earlier, some of the people that are working there have worked with you guys for, you know, more than 30 years now. So the experience is not only in the ownership and the management and everything, but the experience is also on the shop floor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How many racers do you have working with you guys as well? I mean, I know Lewis, you're out there doing the drag racing, but you know, how many people when they leave on Friday are heading out to a racetrack somewhere?
We got a few of them. Pete used to race too. He's a
Yeah,
drag racer.
yeah, I'm used to that. I'm not doing it anymore. Actually, we don't have that many racers here nowadays. Most of the people we have are family people. Racers, they like a lot of time off to go racing, and that doesn't help us when we're trying to make stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's true. How big is your facility down there in
We're
San Diego?
100,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, and especially considering all of the products that you have and all of the different things that you do. You know, getting back to the rocker arms, which is what we're talking about most specifically. Obviously, you guys make a lot of different variants, and what we were talking about were stud mount and shaft mount rocker technology and everything. You'd reference, you know, maybe with the shaft mount, it's you know, maybe it could be a little bit harder to service, but there are a lot more benefits to that. When we talk about something like that, you know, are we talking about, you know, you mentioned some people want to be able to work on individual ones, so on and so forth, but
Well, it's very similar with the shaft mount system. If you want to work on, say, number 7 cylinder, you roll it around, get number 7 cylinder up so both valves are closed. You can take the pair of rocker arms off. If you can see, that's just a pair of rocker arms. You unbolt those 3 bolts, you can take it off the stand, and you can service that. You can change the valve springs, you know, whatever you need to work on. And then all you got to do is just bolt it right back on and you're ready to go. It's very simple to work on.
okay. So it's not, you know, again, it's when we start talking about benefits of one over the other, or, you know, you're going to get this, but you're going to trade off that. It's really not much of a trade off for a huge benefit that you get. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. Are there people that need convincing? And when I ask that, you know, there are a lot of people who are like, hey, look, this is what I've done. I feel like this is bulletproof. It's tried and true. What do you tell to that person if they're looking at maybe going from stud mount to shaft mount?
Well, one thing they can get rid of, most people with a stud mount rocker system will run a stud girdle too. So there's a whole nother thing bolted over the top of all these parts that you got to remove first. With a shaft mount system, you don't have that. So there's a bunch of work before you can actually work on your rockers with stud mounts.
Mm-hmm. As far as the resources go, let's just say I'm looking at moving into something new, and what you can do to help me. I mean, is it as easy as picking up the phone and calling you guys and sort of, you know, talking my way through what I'm doing? What's the process there?
Yeah, Lewis, go ahead.
I mean, basically, if you call in, we just find out what cylinder head you have. And I mean, you don't have to know very much about your setup as long as you know your cylinder head. If you know your lift, that helps, and what ratio you want, and that's your only questions really for a shaft mount system. It's pretty basic, and then as long as you can, you know, get on the base circle of the cam, you can install the shaft rocker setup yourself. So it is, and it comes, you know, with real easy directions. And you know, it comes with shims, all the bolts, everything, and it should just be a bolt-on deal.
Oh, that's not bad. And I realize a lot of the people who are customers know what they're looking at and what they're talking about and everything. You know, a lot of times we start talking about parts matching and marrying up to each other. And, you know, with Crowder, I know we're talking about rocker arms, but I mean, there are so many other things that you guys have within the valve train and, you know, really engine internals and different things like that. What would you tell someone who's saying, you know, I'm looking at using your product here of this and this person's product and so on and so forth? Is it a better opportunity for me to come to you guys and say, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. What can you do to fill my parts bin to make sure I get everything?
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't say it's uncommon for someone to run, someone else's cam, someone else's lifter, our rockers, and everything like that. But when you come to us, I mean, basically you can get your cams, your lifters, your rockers, your valve springs, your retainers, your keepers. I mean, everything we make, so we could help you with the full package. You don't have to, call a bunch of different companies. And if you have any issues, you're calling one company rather than, one company blaming it on another part or, something like that. Basically, with us, you can get everything from top to bottom. And, it's all going to be reliable. It's going to be American made. And you call one company and get everything.
Yeah, I like that. To me, for me, I look at something like that and enjoy that option because, and I think one of the things you hit the nail on the head is if you have a bunch of different people inside of your engine, let's just call it that way, it's going to be real easy for someone to point the finger at the other guy and point the finger at the other guy. And the next thing you know, you've made like 6 calls before you got back to the beginning of the circle, you know?
Yeah, very common.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Well, out there in the racing world, when it comes to Crowder, I know you guys have a great website and a lot of different things. But where do I buy the products? Am I going direct? Am I going through distributors? Are you looking for distributors? What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's an individual person thing. We are not opposed to selling direct. I like selling direct to people, especially rocker arm systems, because we can deal with the customer and there's no middleman. Tell you the truth, a lot of the warehouses, their sales techs and stuff, they really don't know what they're selling. They're selling a part number. We know exactly what you were selling. We know what you need, and we can relate to that.
Mm-hmm. I do like the tech help section of the website as well. The amazing amount of resources you guys have out there. What can you tell a potential customer about that?
We have lots of install videos, but basically you could just pick up the phone and get a hold of, any of our tech guys, and we've all been there for so long. We've all done it. We could help you with the rocker system. I mean, everyone's pretty well versed in everything that we sell. So, I mean, whether you do have our lifters, our camshaft, our rockers, or, crank, clutch, anything like that, I mean, all the sales guys are pretty well versed in all that, and we could get you dialed in just over the phone. And we do have resource videos on our website that can help you as well.
That's not bad. That's a good thing. Where is technology going in as far as development these days? Are we looking at maybe breaking into new things that we haven't done before? Are we taking what we have and maybe fine tuning it, continuing to perfect things? What can you tell us about just the development of everything?
I think it's a fine tuning of what we have. It may be a different engine. Like nowadays, the LS package is very popular. So I think it's just fine tuning into the new engines that are coming out of Detroit. As far as that goes,
Mm-hmm.
it's just fine tuning the product line to customer needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you talked about, you know, hey, we've got a lot of LS product that's going out, so we need to make a lot of LS product and so on and so forth. But if something new is coming out of Detroit or Japan or something like that, what happens in the Crowder shop? You know, I mean, is it you guys, grab an engine, start developing, or how does the whole process work there?
Well, we've got to evaluate the need, as far as us, because we do have to make a profit also. So we have to evaluate how big of that market's going to be before we go all in on it. And a lot of that is customer driven.
Mm-hmm.
If the customers are calling looking for parts, we will go in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as far as deciding which parts to make and which pieces to make and all of that, if you're making one part over here, does that change a whole different cycle of some of the other parts you're making, different parts of the valve train or whatever it might be?
Not so much. No. We strive to make the best product, whatever we're making. If we're making roller lifters, we want to make them best as possible, make sure the heat treating is correct. And the same with rocker arms. They just have to be the best. Everything we do has got to be as good as we can make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool to see everything that you guys have to offer. And again, I know we're talking about rocker technology here as the main part of our title, but just the way, like what you were talking about, shaft rocker versus stud mount rocker and so on and so forth. A lot of this seems easy. I mean, have you seen people go to a shaft mount and say, no, I feel like I need to go back to a stud or vice versa? Or once someone goes this direction, do you feel like they stay? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I would think once people go to a shaft mount system, yeah, they never look back. Yeah, it's the way to go.
I see you laughing over there, Lewis. I mean, is it that much of a no-brainer? Am I making it more complicated than I should?
I mean, it's just a superior product all around. So once you do go to the shaft mount system, I don't think there is no reason to ever go back to a stud mount once you do that.
Not that against old guys or anything like that, but it seems like the stud mount stuff and the stud girdle guys are all the old timers, maybe some gasser guys and stuff like that. But all the dirt late models and all the guys that are really making a lot of horsepower, 410 sprint cars, it's full on shaft mount systems.
Yeah, and that's that's what I was asking before. Trying to convert someone who might, this is the way I've always done it kind of thing. Lewis, with your racing, and I don't know how often you're doing it, but how often are you actually diving into the engine, either to A, find more power, or maybe test some of the products that Crowder is doing right now, or B, out of necessity? It's just time. How long do your engines last for you?
I would say as far as, I mean, really, I'm on the same engine that I've had for probably 10 years. What's nice too about our stuff is we can freshen it up and do a rebuild. Like our lifters are rebuildable, our rockers are rebuildable, and I more just do that just because it's easily available. But I would say as far as like having to rebuild the engine itself, I really don't have to. I mean, I have, our crank rods, cam lifters, rockers, I have everything we make in that thing. I would say even with adjusting the valve train or anything, I mean, I could, maybe every 1,500 miles or something, I'll pull the valve covers and check the valve train, but that's about it. I mean, the stainless steel rockers, it holds the lash, it doesn't heat cycle or anything like that. So it'll basically, you set the lash and forget it. You could just run a feeler gauge under there. It's a shaft mount system, so it makes it real easy.
You're making, how much power are you making, Los? 1,300?
Yeah, 1,400 probably with the current engine.
Yeah, it says a lot when you can street drive something like that, go race it, making that kind of horsepower and not have to worry about it.
I was gonna say, I don't know that I've ever been around a racer who probably thinks less about his engine. And what I mean by that, like, yeah, I've had the same one for 10 years, we'll do this, we'll change some parts. But I mean, seriously, like, how many people can say they're making 1,300 horsepower in their engine and they're not really doing any major service to it, other than freshening some things up? I mean, how often do you hear that? I don't know that you do.
Well, we hear it a lot with our products. We hear it a lot.
That is awesome. All right, are you chasing more power right now, Lewis? Are you okay with what you have? What do you think?
I mean, all racers are chasing more power. I've had in the works for a little bit of flat plane LS that we're doing. Pete made a awesome crankshaft for it. We made a custom cam and lifters, and it has all that set up. So that'll be a flat plane engine that we've set up for. It'll be 2,000 horsepower, pretty easy. So. And that'll be the next setup in that car. So that'll be a fun one.
That's incredible. What kind of car is it, if you don't mind?
That's a GTO, 06 GTO.
No kidding. Wow, 2,000 horsepower. And you're doing the drag and drive with something like that. That is pretty incredible. See, I love this part of the conversation because, again, it speaks to when we start talking about, that magic triangle, whatever, price, power, durability, a lot of times it really is pick any two. And with what a lot we're talking about, it sounds like you can have all three, and you can have all three very reasonably, which is and reasonably also comes over the life of the engine as well. You know, I mean, sometimes there are upfront costs, but if that upfront cost is getting you 10 years out of an engine or more, then that becomes pretty cheap in the long run.
Oh, in the long run, yes. Yeah. I've had engine builders tell me, I really don't care how much it costs as long as it doesn't come back to my shop in a basket. As long as it's still in the block and heads, it's all good.
Yeah, yeah. The last thing we need to do is be picking up parts off of the asphalt or the concrete, depending on, or the dirt, whatever it is that you're racing, because things aren't working together or things aren't marrying up. You know, when you start taking parts out of your engine, Lewis, and you know, you look at rockers and different things like that. Do you see visible wear on these things? I mean, when you take something out, does it look like when you put it in? What can you tell us about, you know?
I mean, lifters, you're always going to see marks from like the lifter bore, and rockers. You're like the shafts, you can examine those. And I definitely give Pete like, you know, feedback on that, because, you know, a lot of the people that we do the racing with, they give me the feedback while we're there. They'll just hand me like a rocker or a shaft or something, and then I can give that to Pete, and Pete can analyze it. And I know Pete, those guys down there are always working on the heat treat, you know, things like that, just to make the parts better as far as that goes. So we're constantly getting feedback, and they're constantly trying to make it better.
That's interesting. Pete, what can you tell us about when, you know, when things are coming back that you're looking at, that you're analyzing and improving upon?
Well, a lot of things when you have steel on steel contact, say like a roller lifter running on a cam, we're seeing now tool steel cams and stuff like that. And the wheel will actually skid on the cam because it doesn't have any traction to turn the wheel.
Huh.
So we're having to try and find things to go around that problem because they've upgraded the camshafts. So we have to react to that. So it's something we're working on right now. And what we're doing is actually DLC coating the axle for the roller lifters. And that's really, we're seeing a lot of benefit in that.
Wow, that's actually really interesting, especially to think again, someone finds an improvement somewhere, but you know, sometimes there is that cause and effect, but just being able to solve something like that, I would imagine that's kind of rewarding too, especially when.
Oh, yeah, tremendously rewarding. Yes.
Yeah, that's really neat. And I mean, are these cycles, is this a constant? And when I say the cycles, I mean like you're seeing things come back and okay, this is causing an issue here. So, you know, let's do a tweak, let's do an adjustment, let's add this here. I mean, is that a constant in your world?
For the most part, no. What we see on parts that come back most of the time is just standard rebuilds, and a lot of it is just normal wear. I mean, these are high performance parts, and you know, they won't last forever. They do last a long time, but we do a lot of maintenance repair work for customers.
Oh, that's not bad. And again, maintenance repair is a whole lot better than replacement work.
Oh
for
yeah,
customers.
exactly. Yeah, that also keeps your costs down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, a full rebuild on a set of rockers is just a fraction of the cost for a new set.
That's not bad. What goes into a rebuild?
Well, we replaced the tips, the outer race, the tip axle, the bearings. Sometimes we'll replace the adjusters. And if it needs a shaft or two, here we'll replace a few shafts. But for the most part, all the parts are reusable.
That's amazing. What's the typical turnaround on something like that?
Well, it depends on the season, how busy we are. A couple weeks usually. A lot of times the communication with the customer is what slows the process down. People will send parts in with no letter, no note, no nothing. We don't know who they came from. So that adds time to it, obviously.
I can see that. And I can see me being one of those people from time to time.
Well, we talked about it last week. You don't remember that?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know those were mine that were coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other 200 sets that are there.
Yeah. When you see things come in for a rebuild, you know, you talk about some of these, like you were talking about DLC coating the inside of bearings and different things like that. You know, are these things that start to go into the rebuilds? How does that work?
Yeah, with all these new parts. Yeah, actually the DLC coated pins, we're seeing a lot less tip rebuilding. The outer race looks better, and you can't even really tell that the axle has been used. So we're just telling people to use them again.
Wow. That's again, what a huge benefit. And a 2-week turnaround isn't bad because look, if I'm sending you back my rockers, I'm sure there are a lot of other things that I'm doing as well. So it's not like you guys are holding me up. I mean, 2 weeks sounds,
Yeah.
especially in this world, not just reasonable, but actually welcome for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a pretty quick turnaround.
That's not bad at all. What else can you tell us about Crowder? Whether it's something we might not have touched on with the rockers or some of the other products that you have out there? What else can you tell us?
I don't know, we're constantly working on, like Lewis said, the heat treating process is very important to us, making sure it's always correct. The roller lifter deal, we're always trying to increase our quantities, stuff like that.
That's not bad. And I love the fact that all of these products are made right there in San Diego, because again, you know, with the output that you're producing, number one, but also with the family business just right here in the United States, you know, the ability to adapt, to adjust, to do all of those other things, I'm sure is a huge benefit to the racing community. And it's just awesome. Lewis, I'll say it's awesome to hear how casual you talk about, I don't know, it's about a 10-year motor and blah, 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 and you're making 1,300 horsepower.
Yeah, I mean, it's reliable for sure. And I mean, we get stories all the time of people with, you know, cranks and rods and everything that have been, you know, running them for 35 years or something. It's crazy, some of the stories that we hear. They'll send back in lifters that are, you know, 20 years old that we don't have anything for anymore. And it's their first rebuild. So, I mean, it's definitely, you know, we try to build the best that we can. And it shows, I mean, with the lifespan of the parts.
That's fantastic. Well, I will say the confidence and the knowledge with which you talk about your products, I think says everything about Crowder, and what a huge benefit to the racing community. And Peter and Lewis, we're so thankful to have had you join us here today, and looking forward to everything else that y'all have coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, gentlemen. What a great session. So this webinar has been recorded. It will be posted on the ePortrait platform later on today and distributed through our newsletter and social media channel. We pushed Crowder's product back on the homepage of ePortrait. So for more information and updates, please visit ePortrait.com. Next webinar will be with Fluid Damper. Again, thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
ePortrait is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
ePortrait, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
ePortrait really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
With roots in the Midwest that date back well before the Model T, Fifth Third Bank has a long history of serving the needs of automotive companies. While much has changed over the years, our passion for helping businesses put cars on the road and on the track has not. Today, we are more committed than ever as a member of SEMA, a founding member of PRI, and a sponsor of multiple race teams across several racing series.
For over a decade, Fifth Third Bank has been a staunch supporter of our industry and a great partner for many companies in the motorsports field.
Our business has been growing extremely fast, and really we could not be where we are today without Fifth Third. They provided amazing strategic advice, the capital we need to support our phases of growth.
They are true partners for me now, and what they do with their involvement in motorsports is untouched in this community.
Where can we take your business? Fifth Third Bank.
Where will you find Ferrea racing components, circle track, drag racing, and any top race shop? In every form of motorsports competition, our valves and valve train components deliver race-proven design and technology. And we've brought that same performance to our street applications as well. We're backed by 5 decades of experience, an extensive range of off-the-shelf components, and our custom valve department has the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Ferrea Racing Components. Stand with us or race against us.
When it comes to pushing the limits of performance, the pros know there's no room for compromise. At Crower Cams, we don't just engineer camshafts and valve train components, we redefine what power means. Since 1955, Crower Cams has been the name trusted by racers, engine builders, and gearheads around the globe. Whether you're building a street machine, a dragster, or a track car, Crower Cams provides the muscle you need to dominate. And with Crower, victory is within your reach.
Scribner Plastics has provided professional strength shipping containers to the automotive and performance industry for over 40 years. We have containers that will fit most any configuration of complete or partial engines and transmissions. Today we highlight part number 5148 cylinder head shipping and storage container. Base has double-walled durable construction featuring a cinch strap with an abrasion sleeve that securely fits your small block, big block, and pro stock heads to the base at all times. Talk to your dealers and distributors about the shipping storage container for cylinder heads from Scribner Plastics, part number 5148.